for just a handful of nights in November, as darkness falls in the Lake District. Arctic Charr leave the safety of Ennerdale water and swim up the River Liza. Here, they will risk their lives to dig a shallow nest in the gravel, mate under cover of darkness, and lay their eggs. Some will fall prey to otters and won't make it back to the lake. But Arctic Charr are survivors. They are one of the rarest freshwater fish in Britain, closely related to salmon, and they live in very cold water. At the end of the Ice Age, most Arctic Charr left the UK for the frozen north. Some were left behind and have been trapped in deep glacial lakes for 10,000 years. These Arctic Charr in Ennerdale are the rarest of all. They are the last UK Charr that still follow their instincts upriver to spawn. 20 years ago, life was tough for Arctic Charr in Ennerdale. The water was more acidic. Gravel was blocked and couldn't flow freely to nesting sites. Arctic Charr were at the brink of extinction. Fortunately, help was at hand.
I'm Pete McCulloch. I'm a Fisheries Technical Officer with the Environment Agency and I run the Ennerdale Arctic Charr project. You can just see last night that there's been a few fish spawning in here. There's new reds dug in the gravel. In the wild, out of every 500 to 600 eggs that you get in every red, only a portion of those will survive. This is the fight nets we use to catch the char. The rope you can see coming off the fight net is a leader. The fish hit that leader, follow it up, go through the guard there, which is in place to stop otters going into the net. They go through a series of chambers and they get held up in the catch chamber there. The fish have got quite a lot of oxygenated water and they'll be ready for us to come and disconnect the fight net and service in the morning. The fikes just catch a certain percentage of the run. What we're after is a certain quota of eggs, around 15,000 eggs per year. Which allows the bulk of the stock to spawn naturally just upstream of the fike nets. Yeah, this is a char that was caught last night in the fike. It's just in the second chamber at the moment. I'm just going to flip it through. The guys will empty the net out so we can strip the eggs or milk out of it. Just putting the fish in here now into the bucket to anaesthetise them just before they're stripped. It's a cock char, so it will contain milt. And he's just drying the fish at the moment because what we don't want to get into the bottles is any moisture because it will trigger the milt straight away. That milt now will just go into the cool box. This is a hen char, Phil's about to strip, and typically it'll produce between 400 and 600 eggs. This fish is very ripe at the moment, so she's spilling her eggs pretty readily without Phil applying too much pressure. Just getting a length off this fish now to help us gauge the condition of the fish and see how healthy the population and individual fish are. So that one there is 315 to the fork of the tail. So the eggs in the milk will be taken from here on ice over to Kilderwater hatchery and they'll be bred on there until July and reintroduced back into their native river and hopefully come back as adults. Just a few years ago, these fish were so endangered that we had to intervene. Their numbers had dwindled to just a couple of hundred from a breeding stock of thousands. And it was decided as a last gasp measure that we would use the hatchery. But to complement that, we've also worked with Wild Ennerdale to ensure the conditions in the valley are favourable for the fish.
I'm Gareth Browning, I'm a forester with the Forestry Commission and I'm partner in Wild Ennerdale. As part of Wild Ennerdale, we've been working with the Environment Agency for over a decade now, trying to remove obstacles to spawning fish and gravel movement in the Ennerdale Valley. And this is a really good example of one of those projects we've done together. As we walk up here, you can see coming up, we can get a great view down on this is Windle Beck, which is a wonderful beck, and it brings a lot of gravel into the River Liza and down to Char where the Arctic Charr spawn. And it's really important that we get gravel constantly moving down there. The Environment Agency approached us a few years ago about the lack of gravel movement and the fact that fish couldn't get up the river to spawn. And so we looked into the options. We had an old concrete pipe bridge which was really stopping fish spawning upstream and gravel moving downstream. We looked at removing that and replacing that with another forest road bridge. That was going to cost us £100,000. So if that was no good, and we looked at other alternatives and realised that's part of our vision for a wilder valley. If we replace the forest road bridge with this bridleway bridge, then we could make this a wilder place too, because people can't drive here anymore. So that sense of wildness that we're trying to encourage across the valley has benefited from this project. Last year, the Environment Agency were able to tell us that they'd seen fish spawning upstream of here for the first time in all the time they've been monitoring, which is absolutely amazing and really shows how working together in partnership, removing obstacles, is starting to have an impact. Not only are fish spawning up here, but since this bridge has been removed, the amount of gravel appearing on Char has increased, and the number of char spawning down there has gone up significantly from just a handful to into the hundreds now, which is just fantastic. This is the River Liza here. It looks amazing. It wasn't always like this. Certainly back in the 50s and 60s, the Forestry Commission planted the first plantings down here, and this was very enclosed. The river had no space to move around, a lot of conifer trees, and that was dumping a lot of needles into the river system, which was making the river system cause it to have some quite high pH spikes, which wasn't good for Arctic Charr. And as you can see now, what we did over the 80s and 90s and early 2000s is we took the conifers back from the river, allowed natural processes to regenerate, so we've got more open space, we've got dense vegetation, we've got birch, we've got willow, and now the river's a lot healthier for it.
The decline of Arctic Charr in Ennerdale has stopped, and the population is beginning to grow again. By working together, the Environment Agency and Wild Ennerdale have reversed environmental damage, rebuilt a natural and diverse habitat, and saved one of Britain's rarest fish from extinction.